I don't know. It got kind of weird.
Yeah. How many hours is the trip from where from Washington to Alaska?
It's like 44 hours. Yeah,
Wow,
44.
that is
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, no, I mean, I've sorry, I quit talking for a moment because I was hearing myself, but I had to mute that. And anyways, yeah, no, I've driven to California from Michigan, and I think that's about a 30-hour drive. So basically, another 50% longer. So yeah.
Well,
Uh,
we drove from Illinois to Washington, and it was actually, I think it was just a little bit longer from Seattle area to Anchorage, Alaska.
oh, okay. So yeah.
So the drive home is going to be insane.
Yeah, no, it definitely changes the way that I uh, definitely changes my mental state if I'm ever away from the devices and computers for a day or two. I remember when I was bicycling, I'd taken a trip and I'd started in Sault Ste. Marie on the Canadian side, and I went to Windsor. It was about a 700-mile trip, and at there was some times when I was like in First Nations territory, kind of out of cell range. And one of the things I remember is I started to hear songs in my head, like not that like auditory hallucinations, but like
Yeah.
I could almost like feel kind of like the rhythms of music in a way I hadn't in a long time because I had just been so used to being on the computer or constantly hearing something and not being by myself for very long at all. Uh,
Were you bicycling with other people or by yourself?
I was by myself on that trip.
So, because like I've spent a lot of time like hiking or doing outdoor stuff, backpacking, but it's always with like friends. I can't
Hmm.
remember the last time I was like alone and beyond civilization. But like the same thing happened to me where I like at one point I started like singing a song. I was like, I don't sing songs. And then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna like make up a song right now. I was like, why am I doing this? This is not what I normally do at all.
Well, you talk about Lord of the Rings. I mean, apparently it's a natural instinct, I guess, right?
Well, okay,
Just
so
start singing if you're in silence for long periods of time.
yeah, but like I okay, so I have no proof of this, but I swear that my memory got stronger those 5 days
Hmm.
because I would be talking to myself and I would, because normally I'd like talk to myself and I'd be like, I have no idea what I was saying, or I lost the train of thought.
Hmm.
But I would like say, I don't know if it's like start here and then go here and then go here and then go here. And then I'd be like, okay, now I can like work back and like work my way back up to that wide idea. And then I'd be like, I think I like understand that idea better now that I've like talked my way through it. And it was just strange where I was like, I think that we can improve memory if we go to places alone.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I think that makes perfect logical sense. I mean, if you would, I mean, use other muscles in your body more vigorously, like if you were to walk for several days and you're not used to doing that, I mean, you would develop those muscles for sure. And yeah, I mean, so of course, I think if you're not constantly getting input from the screen or the phone or constantly listening to things, I mean, it seems like that probably would free up more mental space and you probably would start exercising parts of the brain that you're not used to using. I mean, how that works um, in terms of logistics, I mean, I have no idea, but I mean, I don't know. That doesn't sound crazy to me at all.
Well, so I I agree with you. I have a number of hours recorded that I'm like debating whether or not do I like post them in raw form like as a Substack. And I'm like, man, how much trouble am I going to get myself in if I let people like hear me. Okay, so here's the other thing, because one of the thoughts I had that I was thinking about a lot and like talking through was in the very beginning when I started recording, I was like, I'm not being observed right now. Like I'm just talking to myself, and it's not like I'm not recording this for anyone. So I don't have like an intended audience in mind. I'm just talking. I'm just humaning. Humaning. And then when like day 3 or 4, the way I was talking shifted, and I said this out loud. I was like, oh, now I'm imagining these things going to the internet. Now I'm like imagining an audience. And so I like my consciousness was shifting to where like, I'm not being observed right now, but I'm expecting to be observed at some point by some percentage of the 30 people who follow me on Substack, which is not large, but it's more than just me talking to myself in a car.
Yeah, that is interesting how if you have a quote unquote online conversation, it does separate the time between when someone speaks and when they're heard or when they're responded to. So because like, I mean, you can record something and like maybe someone responds in a live stream, but more often than not, there's this discontinuity where it's like maybe a day or 2 later. So in that sense, it's almost like a letter, but maybe in a verbal form in that way. So, yeah.
Yeah, because so I didn't have cell service, but there was a period where there was no cell service, but I still had 5G, and then 3G, and then LTE. And I don't really even know what those words mean, if I'm honest. My guess is that 5G, 3G, LTE has to do with satellites, which is why I could receive text messages when I didn't have cell service, which is based on radio towers. I really have no idea.
Yeah. No, they're it's measuring how much they're going to microwave your brain, apparently.
But okay, so I could send and receive text messages,
yeah,
but I couldn't take phone calls. So I was recording these audio things for like friends of mine, and I would send off like a 5-minute thought to that person, and then we would send these back and forth. And I just started calling them like little audio missiles. And I was realizing like if I was on a phone call or like we're talking now, I would like have a thought and then I would pause because I want to make sure that like you jump in and respond. But when I'm sending this audio missile, it's like it was more like a letter where I was firing it off, and I just was trying to like, here's a package of my consciousness, please receive it, and then let me know what you think. So that was talking different. But then when I was recording to myself, it was more of like it didn't end, but it started like a private diary where like these are my secret, most innermost thoughts, and I'm just innermost thinking right now. I don't know if that relates to anything.
Yeah, no, it is an interesting, development of technology for sure. And there's something very strange about talking to yourself, but also ostensibly talking to another person at the same time. It is a very weird thing. I used to get annoyed with, I don't know if you ever listened to his podcast, but Jonah Goldberg, whenever he would record podcasts that were kind of like audio essays where he was talking to himself, he would always talk about how it felt so strange to be talking to himself on the internet. And I don't know. You don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. It's probably not very interesting, but at the same time, it is a weird phenomenon for sure. So what do you think? We've got one viewer, I think, but it's a very high-profile one. So do you want to let him in and just submarine the whole discussion for later, or do you want to follow the agenda?
Oh, this is your show, man. You do whatever you want.
Gosh, I'm trying.
I'll tell you this. I will talk to you anytime, any day, and I have tons of flexibility the next 3 months.
Okay.
So Like,
Well,
there's no way that like what we
yeah.
were planning on talking about, if you want it to still happen, it will still happen.
Okay, well, my schedule's actually going to open up a lot. I'm a tax accountant, and after the deadline next week, then I'll be a lot more open. So yeah, let's maybe invite in whoever's watching. So
He says he can't stay long, so it'll be a brief.
okay, that's fine.
Submarine.
So. Yeah. How's the time change and all that in Alaska? How's that been? Has it been a little odd, or are you still kind of on more of a? Well, I guess you're only 1 hour back though from Seattle, right? I mean, I know you were in Washington, so yeah.
Yeah, it was super easy for me. When the week I was driving to Alaska, my fiance had flown home because her grandfather had passed. God rest his soul. And so when she got in Sunday night, yesterday and then even today, it's definitely been a little bit of a jet lag from that 4-hour jump. But 1 hour jump for me was like, no, it's kind of normal, more or less.
All right. So were you by yourself then for part of the drive?
The whole drive. Well, me and the dog.
Okay, you weren't. Okay, it was you and the dog, and she had gone back to Wisconsin.
Right. She's from Springfield, Illinois, but yeah, she went back to the
Okay,
Midwest.
my apologies. Yeah. Okay, so interesting. That is a fascinating thing for sure. Yeah, long car drives by yourself, they are something. Yeah, I'm kind of with you in that I kind of only like to maybe drive for about 9 hours a day if I'm going to be going cross country, because I don't know, my brain starts to melt around like 10 hours. So, but yeah. Have you driven from California to Massachusetts, Paul?
No, I've never driven across the country yet. And I want to do it, but when I had all those kids, it's also just the time. I get 4 weeks vacation. If I got to spend days and days just in travel, I don't get the time with the rallies. So that's a goal for me and my wife. Actually, probably this summer again. I don't think we're leaving the country. So I think my wife and I we love just getting in the car and just drive through the West. Idaho, Montana, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Colorado. There's just so much great drive space out here. So we do a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, those are beautiful spaces. I mean, so it's funny because, I mean, I live in the flat Midwest where there's quite a few people around. And I mean, sometimes I tell people I kind of like to drive and just be in the car by myself. And they kind of give me a weird look like, what do you mean you enjoy that? It's like, well, no, I don't enjoy like driving in rush hour traffic, but like gosh, if you've ever had the blessing of taking the road from Fresno into the Sequoias, oh man, that is quite something. And yeah, it's not an experience you'll easily forget.
Yeah, California's got just some great roads. It's just a beautiful state. We love, my wife and I love doing car rides. We had one vacation when the kids were younger. We almost had a mutiny when we got to Mount St. Helens. They had just been in that car so long, but of course, when the kids are little and you have them in the car, it's like they're buckled in. There's these little prisoners, and the state mandates they be in car seats. And we hit Mount St. Helens, and the kids were like, "We don't want any more national parks." And it's like, well, there's a lake over here we can swim, so that kind of eased the tension from swimming. No more getting out and looking, and Dad takes pictures, and Mom and Dad talk in the car. And
was Adventures in Odyssey part of their childhood?
No, not really.
Paul, you're a disappointing pastor.
I think adventure. So my kids are between 25 and 34.
I'm 33. So, I grew up on Adventures in Odyssey and Jungle Jam. I think it's just that Calvinist heresy you got going on. You don't like the Adventures in Odyssey.
That's like the real war between the Baptists and the Calvinists.
That's right. Yeah, I'm obviously Reformed Baptist, so they're right in the middle.
Okay. Yeah. What about audiobooks? Did you do that? Or
Yeah. Lord of the Rings, C.S. Lewis. We did all that. Yeah. We didn't do we homeschooled, and my kids were on a pretty short leash in terms of screens and those kind of things. They had we had some computer games and things like that, but pretty short leash.
Yeah, I remember The Hobbit on a road trip. I read the Chronicles of Narnia as a kid, but I don't ever remember it being part of a road trip.
And then a lot of Lord of the Rings and Hobbit.
Yeah, my parents liked kind of not realistic kind of novels, but maybe more grounded, less fantastical kind of things, like Cheaper by the Dozen, and was one, and
Left Behind.
Left Behind. Actually, I was a little bit older, when those came out. So, yeah, they would have been part of road trips. So my mom did read, I think, the first 2 Left Behind books. Yeah. Were you scarred by those, Ethan? You're right in that age where I feel like they're
scarred
really...
by them?
Yeah.
Oh, I loved them.
Oh, yeah.
For me, it was like you can take the Bible and it's fiction, but also, I grew up in, what is it called? Cessationist rapture world. So, that was my bread and butter. It was oh, this is how it's going to work. And so then it was I got to go to school and save all my friends so they don't get left behind.
Yeah. So Christianity Today, they've been doing a audio series about the satanic panic with Mike Cosper, who's the guy that did the rise and fall of Mars Hill. And one of the things, it was in reference to not Left Behind, but Frank Peretti had made a comment how old you are when you read these things or you experience them really affects how you perceive them. And I feel like you're probably right at that age where you were old enough that you could comprehend it and take it somewhat seriously, but maybe you weren't jaded when they came out would be my guess. So.
No, I was born in 92, so I think I was encountering them in middle school, early high school.
Yeah.
I might even read Peretti in 4th or 5th grade.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I definitely remember reading those. Although I've never read This Present Darkness. He had a series of children's books, and they were kind of adventure. Yeah, they were kind of adventure books, and they were like the Hardy Boys, but they had demons and the cult in them. So it's I don't know, the darker version of Scooby-Doo, maybe.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't remember them actually having anything that bizarre in them. But I don't know. Maybe if I read them as an adult, I would think of it differently. So, yeah.
Oh, I remember. I think I was in college when they came out, Christian college. That just sort of whoosh. Where that was a big deal. So, is that a podcast that Cosper's doing now?
Yes, Devil in the Deep Blue Sea. I believe there's 5 parts out, and there will be 8 in total. So, yeah.
All right. Well, just got another podcast to listen to. Certainly was short on those. My current crisis is: do I pay Sam Harris $15 so I can listen to the rest of the Tom Holland interview? That's my current crisis, because it's
how is that a crisis?
Is this a Substack thing, or
that sounds like a problem?
Sam Harris, I would have conflicting feelings about that. So.
Ethan, I'm a YouTuber. I exaggerate. Exaggeration is the is the meat and potatoes of my business model.
Yeah, I know. But then I interact with people in the comments who were like, "Oh, Paul's really serious," and I'm going like, I don't think he's serious. I think he's playing, but I understand why you think he's serious, and I don't know the guy really. So I don't know. Maybe he is serious. I don't know what's real and what's not. He's having fun with KFAB.
But I am thinking about it. I'll probably just do it. That's fine. Because I gotta watch it. What's funny though is that it's so again, I have this membership and I started No Wait, No Ads because whenever I do a conversation with someone like Jordan Hall, someone would hear about it. Oh, I gotta watch it right away. And I kind of have a rhythm of when I put out my videos because of how I do my videos. And so they'll be out in a week or so. So, no, I got to watch it right now. So then I have the no way. I said, look, here you go. Make you a deal. Your patience will cost you $7. There you go. If you have no patience, you can pay $7. If you have patience, you'll see it next week. They'll all be the same. But now it's like I'm going to join Sam Harris's membership club.
Well, you're joking a bit here, but I mean, I don't know if my brothers in the TLC, my fellows, if you will, if they decided to have a conference and just theoretically invite a very hyperbolic and very kind of out there internet blogger. I mean, I don't know. I might have had some questions about whether or not I'd pay for that. So I don't know. So
I have to watch it. I'm really curious what Tom Holland is going to say to him. I'm really curious about that interaction. So I'll probably do it, and then I'll have to figure out how to squirrel it away. Don't tell YouTube that I'm about to break the terms of service by downloading my own private copy.
Okay, so here's what I'm curious about. What about them talking is like, I mean, I know you were like Tom Holland. Like I was trying to listen to Dominion and I just got bored out of my skull. I probably would have enjoyed it more if I was reading a book. I haven't listened to his podcast. But everyone seems to like be really, really, really interested in his thesis that Christianity changed the world isn't important. And I'm just like, isn't this just like an obvious, like I don't get what I don't get the hype.
Well, I mean, Holland's writing for a more post-Christian society than the U.S., right? I mean, he's in the U.K., so I think that has at least some of it. I mean, he's also, I think, been on his own faith journey too, which is interesting. Yeah, if you ever hear him talk about the Reformation, that's actually some really fascinating stuff.
His book, I think, has had a huge evangelistic impact for a lot of people for whom Christianity was just seen as an archaic, repressive thing that is better dealt with. And a lot of those are Europeans. For people sort of in, Bible America, yeah, it's kind of like, duh. But they had a different cover for England than they had for the US. The cover I always use is the American cover, not the English cover. The English cover is like totally nondescript. I mean, the culture in England with respect to Christianity is so different than it is in America.
Is he arguing that like liberal values were birthed out of Christianity?
Yep.
Okay. So that's then if you think liberal values come from just raw human rationalism, then it could be a revolutionary thing to go, these things that are central to my life come from this thing that is in the dustbin. Maybe I need to pull it out of the dustbin and reinspect it.
Right. And this comes on the heels of I gotta get out of here. I got a men's dinner. But this comes on the heels of a new atheism that basically said, well, we follow the Greeks and the Romans. That's where democracy and human rights comes from. And Tom Holland used to believe that, but the more translation he did of the Greeks and the Romans, he's like, these are bloodthirsty people. All this, and he was also very interested in Nietzsche. And Nietzsche was a classicist. And so with Tom Holland, it all started with a provocation because he wrote a book about Islam where he basically said, you know, this origin story that you all peddle, it's really a bunch of BS. And Muhammad probably was from Iraq, not Saudi Arabia. And there's actually a fairly decent academic consensus that the Islamic backstory is a load of crap. But European scholars won't say that in public because they're afraid of getting rushtied. So Tom writes this book, In the Shadow of the Sword, and a bunch of Muslims are really pissed at him. And one woman comes up to him and says, why did you do this to your own religion? He's like, well, I don't have a religion. I got the wheels turning. And so then he starts digging and he begins to realize, holy shit, I do have a religion, but I don't believe it. What do I do? And that's really close to a lot of people who deconstructed. And so you will find a lot of high profile intellectuals from Europe that, well, what provoked your curiosity about Christianity? Tom Holland's Dominion. Because Tom Holland basically calls bullshit historically on all the new atheists and says, Sam Harris's moral imagination that he uses to attack Christianity is a Christian moral imagination. It isn't from reason, it's from Jesus. And people have been making this point for years. But suddenly Tom Holland packages it in a way where it's more like atheist self-discovery, like, holy shit, Jesus gave me my moral view that I hate the church for. What does that mean? And then Tom has also been on his own discovery into the church. He's had his own meaning crisis, and he really wanted a crunchy, supernatural, enchanted Christianity. He had sort of a Marian apparition when he was kind of coming into church slowly, and I mean, all kinds of stuff. So it's a wild, wild ride. So him talking to Sam Harris, oh yeah, that's catnip for me, baby.
So not that this is an estuary, but I'm slightly distracted by this. I have to ask maybe what Von Donk would call an estuarial question. What is going on? Why do you zoom in and out, Paul? Are you like on a selfie stick?
It's got to be AI. It's got to be AI.
It's got to be something to do. It's his fancy camera.
I needed a, I got my fancy cameras for when I'm like recording stuff, but I needed a camera so that I could just turn on for things like this. And I needed a camera with a decent mic. So this Insta360 camera, so that's got a little gimbal, and see, I can stand up. Ooh, and nice. one of the things that I did, see, it's going to follow me. You might have seen a few videos where I did something like this. And because sometimes I need to make a little 2 or 3 minute video, and I just want to look at the camera and make a 3 instead of like getting set up and using the fancy cameras. I just want to do something fast. I don't want to monkey around with a mic. I just want to do it fast. And sometimes I have Zoom calls or things like that. I just needed a little camera. This little thing's on a gimbal, so it follows me around.
That's great.
Yeah, an iPad will do it. A Surface will do it. A lot of cameras right now will do this. So that's what's happening. It's just tracking my face.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I have the absolute cheapest camera I could buy at Best Buy. I actually went to a store and got it because, I don't know, I guess I'm an elder millennial. So.
Well, even that's not too bad. See, now it's lost me. Hey, dude, I'm over here.
No, it kind of amazes me when I listen to some podcasts how supposedly a lot of people like record like full podcasts and then they just lose them to the internet or have like so many recording issues because – yeah, I mean, I'm using pretty cheap technology here, and I feel like it's worked fairly well so far.
It's gotten way better. But if you're doing it all the time, It pays to. I mean, sound is really what you have to figure out. Sound is harder.
Yeah.
All right.
That's fair. I'm sorry, it sounds pretty lousy here, but yeah, thank you, Paula. Enjoy your dinner.
All right, guys, we'll see you.
Okay. That was fun. Yeah. Oh gosh, my eyes. I don't know. Something's like kind of making my eyes water. But
Did Paul's departure bring you to tears?
Apparently, I guess. No, I'm not going to see him till tomorrow morning. I've only seen him for like 5 hours today online. Oh gosh, no, I must be having some kind of allergic reaction there. I don't know, but I'm feeling fine though. So otherwise, yeah. So I was going through your Substack before I had gotten on today and reading the ARC stuff. So what did you think of ARC? I guess in general, or I mean, feel free to be. Yeah, I mean, I'm not, for the record, a huge Peterson fan. I mean, I've come to respect him more, but so yeah, if you have something too critical to say, this is a safe space. But
I mean, I have read all of their website besides their research wing, I think. And I've listened to the first 3. Well, I've watched the trailer and done a critical analysis of their trailer. And I've watched the first 3 videos, which is Jordan Peterson, Philippa Stroud, and Arthur Brooks. And I have like 45 more. I have 45 more videos to watch and write through before I can tell you what I think of ARC.
Okay.
At this point, everything is pointing me towards it's like a globalist movement.
Yeah.
And everything in my life is telling me globalism is bad and is not the future that any human should aim towards.
Yeah. So how do you, I mean, I know PVK's been maybe trying to do it in some ways, but how do you make a local movement from the top down, or is that just an impossibility? Because I think they talk a lot about community and family and different things like that, but I think you are getting at tension, which is that how do you create what they're saying they want to create in this format? That's kind of what a lot of PVK and Christian Baxter's complaints about ARC were kind of about, right? I mean, which is that they're saying, yeah, we want to bring people together. We want to have like a meet space kind of area, but then they get together and what are they doing? It's like they're all watching a YouTube video together almost, right?
Yeah, and it's like I didn't go to ARC, never been to ARC. And there's absolutely an element of like, oh, you're just like armchair analyzing this. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm watching YouTube videos, which they posted to their channel, and then like determining just based on the language and symbolism and how it's marketing. I studied advertising, so like I'm in a position to like analyze advertising. Like I've never met any of those people, so I in no ways am I trying to be like, oh, those people are bad, and like that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to like listen very carefully and go like based on the words you're saying and how you're presenting those words and the framework around that, what would I take away from this? And so then it becomes, to me at this point, very much like there's people in charge today across the globe, and the people that are in charge around the globe right now, which is like the World Economic Forum types, those guys are bad. Those guys and gals are bad, and we are good people, so therefore we should be in charge of the globe. And my immediate response is, what about the cities that y'all live in? Like, are the cities y'all live in, are they like these beautiful places? Because if you come from a city, it's not beautiful. Like, what makes you think that you should be able to like skip the transform your city part to we're going to relay the foundations of the Western world part. And I've been on the road for the last like year, and I've kind of been on the road even longer than that. But like this July, I move home, and then I'll shortly after that be purchasing a home, and I intend to get involved in my local community. I have no interest in top down control. I don't understand why like a group of us can't just go to a city council meeting and say like, hey, I think y'all are wrong about this thing. It doesn't benefit the people that live in this city. And so the people that live in the city, we're showing up because enough of us have said, we're just going to ignore federal politics because there's only so much we can do, but we can influence local politics quite a degree more. And I think we've seen that on like the progressive wing and on the MAGA wing, where they would into like local politics, and those then became federal stories. But people are still obsessed with the big shiny federal object. At least from where I'm sitting.
Yeah. So if your nightmare became true and you got called up to the ARC main stage because people are just so in love with patterned by design, and you had to like give a speech and like you had your 6 minutes. I mean, is that what you think you would tell them? Like, yeah, this isn't working. You need to be more connected to a community.
In part, yeah. If you gave me an audience of 4,000 people and said, Ethan, I want you to say something that maybe they haven't heard or package old ideas in a new way, like say something that matters in 15 minutes to 4,000 people, what would I say? I think I would try to present something like this, which is that currently, at this moment in time, I think that every human has a series of choices every day. And I think that every choice you make leads you closer to life or closer to death. I think life and death are very real, and I think that they are incremental. I think that you can eat a bunch of junk food, and that really does create death at a cellular level. Your mitochondria start working worse than they could be working. So like the food you eat has like a direct impact on your body, and then your body has a direct impact on how you think, how you feel. Your body, like when I eat better, it is easier for me to love my fiance more, because when she says something, I can like not just respond in like a rash bit of anger or criticism, because I have such a bent toward being critical. And then when I exercise, that also builds like stress tolerance. So the higher my stress tolerance is, like the more loving I can be. And I think that we have outsourced much of our decision making. I think we have outsourced much of our wisdom. And I think that humans need to like reconsider some basic choices we make and whether or not those choices lead to life or towards life or towards death. I also think one of the things that happened is a lot of humans have been on the path of death, and somebody came along in all kinds of different fields and said, hey, I've got life to sell you. And we said, well, my life's not working well, so I'd really like to buy some life. And so people jumped onto what they thought.
Like to buy rules for life, maybe?
Well, that book's pretty good. I'm a big fan of that.
I haven't read it, honestly.
But a little bit different. People said, like, I'll buy your life. And so people bought life only to discover what they had bought was artificial life. And I think we live in a world of artificiality. We live in a world where, like, you can go to Whole Foods and buy all kinds of health food that is just as bad for your metabolism as like Doritos and Cheetos are. But like you think that you're buying a healthy thing, but it's producing death in you still, even though it has the packaging of health. I think there's lots of aspects of our life where we go, I'm doing a healthy thing, but it turns out that it's actually like artificial life. It's not like real life. So the question is like, how do you not only not make choices that lead towards death, but how do you not make choices that lead you towards artificial life? Because I think in an age of technology, artificial life is way more relevant than it's ever been.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it's the whole like the concentrated strawberry that doesn't taste like the strawberry. And yeah, yeah, I mean, it is a tricky thing because, I mean, on one level, I know I struggle with, the internet, it breeds so much cynicism, but I mean, at the same time, I like to think it is part of the reason why I do this stream and stuff like this is that there's also good things and life giving things on the internet. But I mean, it's this whole problem. Like, for example, there's this guy who I think he's maybe cooled down a little bit, but he was complaining a lot on TLC about how no one wanted to listen to him or take him seriously. And it's like, well, if you go on a date and the date goes well and you have a good conversation and you seem to engage with the person you're communicating with, but then you go home at the end of the night and you're dropping your date off, and well, I'll use gendered language. You tell her, yeah, this went pretty well. I had a good time tonight, but I think you're kind of, well, I don't know how strict YouTube censors are, but a see you next Tuesday. I mean, you could look at that and you could say, oh, well, we had a really great time. And why is she concentrated on this one thing? And she probably wouldn't want to have a second date. But at the same time, it's like, that's a very human instinct. And I don't think it's wrong. And how do you keep from just concentrating on the negativity? And yeah, how do you focus on the things that are more life giving? And I mean, it's definitely a constant struggle. I mean, I know it's one that I failed at times.
Yeah, I mean, I think our dating market is like built artificially. I think it's built on top of a bunch of artificial stuff. Like, how do you even set somebody up on a blind date anymore? Like, I've tried with some of my friends and my fiance's friends, and a lot of our friends, I shouldn't say a lot, there's only been a few instances, but there's been a degree of like, well, can I see a picture first? Like, well, hey, I'm your close friend. Don't you trust me? I need to see a picture first. Like, why do you need to see a picture first? Well, because in my phone here, I've got a million pictures. So like, I need a picture because what if she's not as good looking as the person right here? It's like, well, that person right here, you've never met. That's not a real person yet. It might be a real person, but like, you have no idea. So there's all of these artificial layers. And then you go on a date, and I've been on Tinder dates where like during the date gets up and goes to the bathroom. And then I check my Tinder to be like, oh, this person can meet right now. Like, I'm gonna I gotta end this date. I'm not gonna ghost her, but I'm just gonna end this now because I'm gonna go like, this person is more attractive to me. I'm gonna go see this person. And like, that's not a good thing. Like, I just at a certain point, and maybe I have this is my more radical statement. Maybe I've kind of exited that everything is subjective.
Yeah. How much does capitalism sell? You talk about false life, the illusion of choice as much as it does choice. I mean, because like if you watch like a TV commercial and you see like a person who's, I don't know, hiking in the Northwest or in Alaska, and they're with their dog and they, I don't know, are eating a Nutri-Grain bar. I mean, part of what they're selling is, hey, you have these options, and if you eat a Nutri-Grain bar, it's going to bring you closer to this life that you want. But obviously, if I'm someone who, I don't know, watches 10 hours of TV a day and I'm drinking a 6-pack of beer, I mean, eating that Nutri-Grain bar isn't going to give me that life, right? I mean, it's selling an illusion. It's selling, I guess, to use maybe Freudian language, an association.
Yeah. Like that's what I learned how to do in college, you know, like, and like one of the things that I was taught was, hey, here are the like sections of, I don't know, sections of the population. And we do it by like age range, by income, by gender, by ethnicity. And then when Nutrigrain comes to an ad agency and says, hey, so we want to make a commercial and here's the people we want, right? So here's the demographics and here's the psychographics. So like this is the age, yada, yada, yada. And this is the kind of person, because we've got a bunch of 35-year-olds with kids buying our bars, but we really want 35-year-olds that are single because they're not buying our bars. We're not seeing them come through. So can you target them so we can sell some of that illusion, that association, etc., to them? And so then I, as a copywriter, partner with, you know, a film person or whoever else on the creative team that's building this, and we sit down and we start to think about, you know, we create a few different sample profiles, right? So Sam E from Michigan might be one of these people that we like draw up and create, and then we sit down and go, what does Sam E want most? Like, what does Sam E dream about having? And how can we like put Sam E's dream into a tangible physical representation on a billboard, in a bus station, on a television commercial, on a TikTok ad, and sell the dream, sell this person's innermost desire so that they will come and buy a Nutrigrain bar. So like, I mean, I don't know if it's too far to say that like advertising is turning objects into placebos, but like to a degree, it's like, come get this Nutrigrain bar. It will give you a placebo effect and you will be closer to nature. And there's a degree, like I doubt there's ever been a study on this, but I would imagine you could do a study. I don't know. Maybe this is, I'm not very scientific, so I always get in trouble if I talk about science. Like, I wonder if you could do a study to see if that placebo effect via advertising has a real effect in the way that we know medical placebo effects do.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I mean, I think of, so much of advertising and it is association. And I mean, I guess in some ways it's less egregious because it's more blatant, but the weirdest associations to me are the ones that use pop culture characters or to try and sell something that isn't related to them at all. Like I remember seeing an ad that had Darth Vader and it was for a cell phone, for example, and thinking like, what does Darth Vader have to do with a cell phone? But yeah, obviously someone crunched the numbers. They said, yeah, these are the people we want to buy the phone, and these are the people who like Star Wars. And I don't know, I can rail at it, but if it caught my attention, it obviously worked on some level, right?
Well, and yeah, I don't think it's just like Star Wars, but it's like these are the people in which there's a deep nostalgia for Star Wars, and that nostalgia is powerful enough to drive a sale. You know, just earlier you mentioned Adventures in Odyssey, and my immediate reaction was like, pump my fist. Because I was like, yeah, I listened to Adventures in Odyssey. Like, I grew up on that. Like, if you put that into like the Halo app, then like, oh, I can receive exclusive Adventures in Odyssey content if I just do a 7-day free trial of Halo. Well, you might have me sold there. I might have to spend $15. No shade to PBK. But like you might get my money, and then I'll probably just forget that it's a 7-day trial, and you'll probably get at least one free credit card swipe out of me, and that's enough. You know, because I won't be alone in that. There'll be a million other people that forgot to cancel, and that $15 times a million, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it is something where it's, I guess a skimming kind of technique where, you have, I mean, I think it was related to finance actually, but it makes me think of Tom Wolfe and the whole thing where someone was talking about basically taking a little bit on every transaction in the stock market, and how the father had described like what he does for a living to his daughter as like sort of like skimming off like a a piece of bread or something like that, or just like taking small crumbs from like every little thing kind of. And yeah.
Okay. So then like, to me, that takes me back to like local community.
Yeah.
Because when I move back home to Wisconsin, Southeast Wisconsin, if I buy my meat from a farmer and like split a cow with my dad and another friend, split in thirds or something, how many people are skimming in between me and the farmer? I mean, maybe there's a basic like meat processing that the farmer sends the cow to. Maybe the farmer does it just himself on his land, depending on how many head of cattle he's got. One of my good friends artificially inseminates cattle on I don't know about weekly, but a monthly basis. So like, he doesn't bring another company to do the hand up to your elbow in the cow hole. They just do it themselves. Or if you're raising chickens, like I've been a part of chicken processing, and there were 5 of us. We got through 30 chickens in a day, and there was no middleman there, besides like the person that we bought the chicken from originally, and then we bought feed. But that's not even a middleman. So like we have a ton of, I don't know, a ton of economic actors that are just middlemen. And I don't say that to be like, oh, middleman is bad. I have no idea. I just know personally, I'd like to have less middlemen in my life. Like that's the direction I would like to try and move, and see what happens and write about it as it's happening, because like I can't keep going down like the globalist corporation path.
Yeah.
I want to try something different.
Yeah. So I unfortunately can't pull the quote up because I'm on a work computer. I mean, maybe I could search through like my cell phone and get it, but that doesn't have the Control F features. But one of the things that you had written about in the Substack that stuck out to me was how you felt like people, if you think I'm miswording you tell me, but you thought that people learned hedonism from the church culture that you were in when you were growing up.
Oh, yeah, I was probably talking about like donuts or 1,000-calorie coffee drinks.
Yeah, 1,000-calorie coffee drinks was a line.
Yeah, I mean, I found it strange that like we will preach a sermon, and again, I come from megachurch land, so like that is not right. That's my context. Preach a sermon, and we'll like talk about like your body is a temple, and then the entire like mass of humans will exit the auditorium, move into the gymnasium, and the food we have available for free as people mill about and have conversations is like little powdered sugar donuts, and it's like there is no nutritional value to that. Like how am I supposed to take you seriously by telling me my body is a temple? Like the entire book of Leviticus is about ways to like keep the temple clean and these rules and regulations. And like, if my body is that level of seriousness, then I should probably be concerned about what's going into my body. And in my personal experience, like in life thus far, the more concerned I am and the cleaner my diet is, the better I feel and the more my life works.
Yeah, you said you were also involved with, I guess I don't know, would they have called it a church? I guess like a spiritual kind of community, or like a church plant too at one point.
Yeah, I so like grew up in a mega church, went to college. In the summers of college, I worked at a Christian summer camp, did that for 4 summers. In the summer camp aspect, I had met somebody who was a church planter that had used to be a camp counselor essentially, and was brought back as like a speaker for a week. He and I bonded. I had dropped out of college and was living at the summer camp at the time. And he was like, "What are you doing after camp?" I go, well, I have no plans. Actually, I have no idea what I'm doing next. And he goes, "Well, you can come like live out of my basement and like work at the church plant. I can't pay you, but like you like to preach. We've got 3 of us that preach. We'd love to like teach you how to do that a little more wisely, and like we could give you some structure and like let you preach, but also like guide you in that. I go, yes, I need mentorship. I need people who are older than me. That sounds great. So yeah, I moved to Rockford, Illinois, and was a part of a church plant that met in a brewery.
So you were quite young at the time. How old was the person whose house you were staying at that time?
Late 30s.
Oh, okay.
Maybe he was 40. So I would have been like 20, 22.
Huh.
So
Yeah.
probably I guess he could have been 44. I'm going to guess like 40 give or take.
Okay. So he had been, was he a someone who had gone to like seminary and had been involved with other churches, or was he someone who was more maybe from like an entrepreneurial kind of background?
He definitely went to seminary. I want to say he went to Calvin in Michigan. There's one of the Michigan schools. What's the other one right there? Calvin and Hope.
I mean, Hope is the other, West
Might have done
Michigan
Hope.
school. I don't, but there's actually quite a few seminaries in Grand Rapids. But those are the 2 big ones. Hope is the RCA one, and Calvin is the CRC one.
What is RCA?
Reformed Church of America. So they're kind of, I don't know, maybe in some ways more evangelical, kind of like mainstream, but also in some ways more liberal like version of the CRC.
Okay, yeah,
kind of cousin denominations, and
I'm pretty sure he did Hope, because the summer camp I worked at was affiliated with the Covenant denomination.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever heard of Covenant. A bunch of Swedes.
Oh, okay, yeah. Zwinglians, right?
I don't know, maybe.
Don't ask me to define Zwinglian. I've attended Calvinist churches for like 7 years now. I could barely begin to define Calvinism. But no, that's interesting. Did the church that was in the brewery, did it meet on Sunday, or did it meet on another day of the week?
Nope. Met every Sunday morning. There were probably about 100 people that would come through.
That's pretty good size.
Almost everybody was de-churched or unchurched. And a hyper intellectual crowd fused with a bunch of like tradesmen and women.
Interesting. Yeah. No, it's just I was thinking about that compared to the mega church, and I don't know, it's very easy to rail against the mega church, but at the same time, I mean, I have been part of small church communities where it felt like if you didn't show up, you didn't give money, you didn't in some ways participate in like the Bible studies, that the whole thing was going to go under, which, I mean, that has its own blessings for sure, but it also, I mean, especially if you're someone from the outside looking in and thinking, should I join this or be a part of it? It also has a kind of stress to it too. So, and I mean, maybe that's something that, maybe Christians need to become a little more comfortable with. I mean, but at the same time, I understand why. I'll tell this story. I mean, my grandparents, after probably close to, I'd say, 3 decades away from any kind of formal church settings. I mean, like, not that they wouldn't go to church on like Easter, or they were never actively anti-religious, but they came back to church at a mega church in the Kalamazoo area as regular attendees. And I mean, they were older, they were in their 60s. They had their friends. They spent a third of the year in Florida. They weren't looking for something that was going to become their whole life. And I think it was kind of a blessing for them to have a place where they could just show up. They didn't have to worry if it was going to continue to be there, if they gave money or not. And they could just concentrate on being in a service and the preaching and whatever was there, and not like all the other kind of external kind of things around church that often sort of take over.
Yeah, and like mega churches do so many things incredibly well. So much of my frustration is like at specific people that I need to forgive, but I am currently unwilling to do so. And I know that a day is going to come where like, okay, Ethan, you're not 1 month into following Jesus. You're 6 months now, and you've been saying for 5 months that you need to forgive somebody. So at some point I'm going to have to bite the bullet and like let go of my anger. But I don't want to do that today.
Yeah.
But like one of the things that mega churches do incredibly well is, I mean, if you just went number by number, like they bring in so many people and expose them to just church in the broadest sense. And like, that is an incredible thing. And they're designed in a way that it is an easy experience to walk in the door, know where to go, where to sit, how to engage with the service. There's not like a lot of confusing ritual or things that would turn you off. All of like the turn you off stuff has like been turned way down. That's kept in like the second floor Bible study room on Wednesday night, and there's a lot of beauty to that, the amount of people that I saw come through and just go like, oh, this is a breath of fresh air. I mean, everybody, people from all kinds of different denominations came to the megachurch I worked at and were like, this is such a breath of fresh air. Now, at the same time, as like a staff member, I was also aware of all of the families that had been here for 5 years and were going like, is there any depth here? Like, we've been hearing the same 1.5 year sermon cycle 3 times now. Like, I've heard this sermon. I remember this sermon from 1.5 years ago. Like, we just rehashing stuff?
Yeah.
So it becomes designed for the new person. So it's great for the new person. But then you see this slow churn on the back end of families going like, all right, well, this doesn't work for us anymore. And maybe that's okay. Maybe it's okay that there are, different denominations, different types of churches, different styles for different kinds of people.
Yeah. Well, I will say, I lived in a lot of different places in my 20s, and I've been to quite a few different churches. I mean, mostly Protestant, but also some Catholic and Orthodox. And I mean, the only thing worse than being at a church that feels like they want you there too much is being one where you feel like you're kind of not wanted at all. Like you feel like you've accidentally walked into like a family dinner and everyone's wondering why you're there. So, which I mean, most churches are nice and they're happy to see people. I don't think they'd ever ask you not to be there. But like I do remember, for example, going to a mainline church service where the median age of the congregants was probably somewhere north of 65, and like being there, like walking in, and like someone actually came and like tapped me on the shoulders, like, "Can you go sign in?" It's like, what? But I guess that's what they did. That was their ritual, and I mean, I guess there's nothing wrong with that. They want some idea of who's there, but at the same time, I couldn't help but thinking, like, really, is this what you do to all your guests? And like the people there were nice. It seemed to be a good community. But at the same time, it is kind of funny. And I think of that as someone who's actually pretty open, though, to different church experiences, and thinking like, what if there was someone I don't know, like a Jordan Hall type person who like came into a church and they had never been in maybe any kind of service or hadn't been for like 20 years, and that was their experience. I mean, I could definitely see where it might put someone off of the whole thing. I mean, how that could be a possibility. And I mean, you are right that, I mean, mega churches do create spaces that are anyone can come into and feel somewhat welcome, which isn't nothing for sure. So, I mean, that said, I mean, I don't think I would ever go to a full-blown megachurch because of, well, some of the Donald Miller kinds of critiques of that kind of Christianity. And
yeah, and it was in Rockford when I think I had read Blue Like Jazz. Kind of maybe somebody had given it to me. I was like, oh, this is great. But then it was in Rockford where I like was living in that church planter's basement. I went over to his bookshelf and was like, oh, Donald Miller wrote a lot of books. Well, let's read them all. And there was a lot of books in his library that I was like, had never heard of, or it was a lot of like, probably like the best of the emergent church stuff. It was, I never read anything that was hyper political. Everything I read from his shelf was really interesting and like refreshing.
Yeah. So this would have been like what, circa 2007 then, or?
No, I graduated high school in 2010.
Okay.
This would have been like,
oh yeah, gosh, really great at math here. Gosh, you can definitely trust me with your taxes. No, okay, so no, I knew that too because I remember you telling me you were born in 92 when we had been talking before. So okay, so this was like in the 2010s. Okay. Yeah, so I was kind of late to that book too because I remember seeing it come up on like a lot of lists, mostly from secular publications of like 10 best books of the 2000s. Near the end of the decade.
Blue Like Jazz?
Yeah.
Oh, you're probably right about the original date. My apologies.
No. I had meant 2007. I don't know where. I think I had got off maybe. Yeah, I don't know where I got off of my head and trying to add the numbers there, but yeah. So yeah.
So did I can't remember from your email. You've read more than just Blue Like Jazz from Donald Miller?
I have. I've read Blue Like Jazz, A Million Miles in 1,000 Years, Searching for God Knows What, and Scary Close. So I haven't read his fatherhood books, and I haven't read his business books.
Or his very first book.
Yes, I haven't read that either. So, yep.
Did you read Love Does by Bob Goff?
I have not. No.
Okay, because that's a really fun one. It would have been after it might have been right around the Scary Close era of Donald Miller. He meets this guy who's a lawyer, and part of Bob Goff's story is he's a lawyer, so he has a lot of money. And he's also just the kind of guy that's like full whimsy and will just spend his money to do like the stupidest things, but that everyone will remember. And so he tries to like live like Jesus does. If Jesus, I mean, maybe it's more like Paul, where like he's just like, I got these funds, so like I'm gonna show up to this kid's birthday party with like 100 balloons, and we're gonna see if we can like make a little kid fly up in the air with balloons. But he fuses all of this whimsy into like following Jesus. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And then to see Goff and Donald Miller have this friendship where it's like writer, but also because Miller was also trying to like, I mentioned this to you, but like my favorite quote from him is if you want to tell a good story, you have to live a good story.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, his bicycle book, A Million Miles, that definitely is the one that made the biggest impression on me. I'd been going through some things in my life that were a little bit difficult with career and health, and had a family member who died around the time I'd read that book, and I remember reading it and really, I don't know, I guess being inspired by the idea of, well, thinking towards a goal and trying, well, also maybe having a goal that, I mean, you talk about goals and it's almost always kind of a career driven thing or maybe an academic driven thing in the US. But the idea of something where saying, okay, I'm going to accomplish this and setting your mind to it. And yeah, I mean, I can't say that I got into distance bicycling because of that book, but I definitely read it around the time that I did get into distance bicycling. And yeah.
That's awesome. Bob Goff also wrote like a super, super skinny book. Do you know, what's the company? They did a bunch of Christian polls. Barna? David?
Yeah.
Okay, so Barna did this series of books with a bunch of different authors. I don't remember what they're called. Barna Frames, Barna. There was like 10 really skinny little books. And Bob Goff wrote one, I think it might have been called Multi-Careering. They were trying to like reimagine careers, education, like a bunch of different, I don't know, fields of life. And then they asked authors to write about it. And then they brought in a bunch of stats and like made them look cool on the page. And Bob Goff had this statement that really stuck out to me, though I don't know if it's a good statement, where he said most people pick their career and then backfill their life. What if you picked your life and backfilled your career? Which is essentially what I spent my 20s doing. I also spent my 20s being poor. But I just kept picking the next thing I wanted to do, which is kind of how I dropped out of college. It's kind of why I went to live in a church planter's basement for a year. It's why I went to work at a mega church and then went to go live in LA for a year. And so I lived a lot, but I haven't careered at all. Still to this day, I've yet to properly career.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was almost 30 when I started seriously pursuing my CPA. And I mean, I definitely spent some time being aimless in my 20s. I worked in 2 national parks and at a ski resort for a while. And yeah, I mean, I guess I don't regret any of that. At the same time, there's a part of me getting close to 40 and looking at starting a family kind of thinks like, oh man, if I could have just put away even like a couple thousand a year when I was in my 20s, not even a lot of money, but just, I feel like that might make some of these things kind of easier. But I don't know. At the same time, there's something to be said for being young and being able to travel and experience things a way you can't if you, well, have a house and the fence in the backyard and all that kind of thing.
Okay. What did you major in college? And then what 2 national parks did you work at?
So I have finance and accounting degrees, actually 2 bachelor's degrees. I joke with my wife when I hear her say that when I've heard people say that, oh, the biggest predictor of educational outcomes is your parents, that I guess we're a 2 bachelor degree household. So because she went back to school and really a professional degree, but for nursing, and she's a nurse now. But yeah, I studied finance and accounting. I did also go to law school for a year, but obviously didn't graduate from that. And yeah, I mean, I could have definitely seen myself being maybe a little bit more aimless with my studies if I didn't have parents who were very kind of career minded. And yeah, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you've watched Valerie's channel at all, or if you've listened to any of it, but she one of the questions she likes to ask her guests is, "What is your learning journey?" And for me, I feel like my learning journey, if you will, has been very 2-tracked, where I have like the things I studied in college and the things I put my mind to professionally, which are all very procedural, very business oriented, very transactional kinds of things. And then I have the things that I do in my spare time, and like I don't know, just like stuff with like church, and where it's much more focused on like philosophy and religion and history, and I don't know, stuff like Ratzinger and C.S. Lewis and that kind of thing.
National parks?
Oh yeah, sorry, the national parks. Yes, so Kings Canyon. But if you know Kings Canyon, actually at the top of the ridge, so really the sequoias. By the General Grant Tree and Yellowstone. So, yeah, I like to say I've only been there one time, but I stayed for close to 6 months.
Which park did you like more?
So I hadn't been to California at all before I had been in the Sequoias. I was there for a summer, and getting to drive around California and go to places like Yosemite and the coast and all that kind of stuff was really cool. That said, there's not anywhere near as much space to explore inside the Sequoias and Kings Canyon. It's a little more remote than, I should say it's more remote. Yellowstone is one of the more developed national parks. It has more accommodations for people. So there's also more people there, and it gets more visitors. So in that sense, like if you go by Old Faithful, there's actually quite a few people that you'll see and encounter. Whereas, yeah, Kings Canyon, especially if you go down into the canyon, it's really the middle of nowhere, which is nice, but I mean it's also not anywhere near as drivable and easy to explore, and you don't know where to go exactly. So there's pros and cons to each. And I mean, I imagine going to Yellowstone with your kids would probably be a lot easier than going to Kings Canyon or the Sequoias.
Yeah. Did you enjoy the experience of living at one of the parks more? Or is it really both? Both are pros and cons?
Yeah, that's a good question. I enjoyed the experience of living in Yellowstone more, but that's because the company was better and there wasn't as many, quite frankly, insane people. No, there really were insane people actually in the that were working for the company I was, working for in the Sequoias. I'll be polite and not, spread the dirty laundry, so to speak. But no, there really were people who were, seriously kind of had major problems and were affecting other people with those problems. In the Sequoias.
Okay, Yellowstone it is.
But that's not the park itself. I mean, but I mean, I guess that's part of it. But yeah, so. I don't know. Where's the most interesting place that you've lived at? It sounds like you lived at a few different places.
The most interesting place. You gotta give me a better word than interesting, or more like what are you wanting to know?
A place that sticks in your mind, maybe, or that. I don't know. Maybe use like a Donald Miller question. I mean, you wake up on your first day of eternity, you've passed away. I mean, if you had to recreate a physical experience where you've been somewhere, where would you be waking up, or what would you be doing?
Rock Island, Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
It's a place I've been a number of times, and a place I'd like to go every single year. If the UP was owned by Wisconsin, the UP might win. But I love Wisconsin so much. So if you go up, like if this is Wisconsin, this is like the Green Bay area. There's a place called Door County, which is very like touristy. Like Chicago folks will come up to Door County because it's just beautiful. There's like wineries and that kind of stuff. If you keep going to the end of Door County, so like right off this guy, you drive your car onto a ferry, and you get to Washington Island. But then you can drive across Washington Island and park your car and get in like a tiny ferry. It's almost like a little dinghy. The water will like splash up and over and onto you on this ferry, and that will take you to Rock Island. And from Rock Island, you can see Michigan. So it's in that zone. Rock Island has a strange American Indian history there. There's a lighthouse there. There is this enormous Norwegian style fireplace and dining hall with like Thor and Odin and those gods carved into the dining table. Rock Island has mafia roots with fur smuggling. I think it's there's lighthouse. If you go into the lighthouse, you can read the lighthouse journals that just go way back of just like lighthouse keepers. It's not that big, but you can camp there. And to me, Rock Island is one of those places where like heaven overlaps with earth. And I have never been to Rock Island and not had an important couple of days. Whether that was like with hailstorms coming down and like just it was hailing and raining the whole weekend, or if it was beautiful and sunny. I've almost died on Rock Island. It gets the name Rock Island because when you walk out, you're walking on rocks. There's not a sand beach. I don't know if it's all the way around the island, but I think pretty much it's all rock beaches. So when I was in college, some friends of mine and we went up there, and we're just walking. We're like, we're gonna walk to Michigan, ha ha ha, and we're just like laughing, and the water gets like our belly buttons, and we're like, man, we have been walking for a while. We keep walking out, and we get to the point where the water's over our shoulders, and we're like, man, we should like turn around. And like there were 3 of us. We turn around and look, and like we can barely see our friends on the beach, and we're going like, oh, we are far away. Like, oh my goodness. And we go to swim, and the undercurrent just begins to, the undertow, whatever that word is, begins to pull us. And all 3 of us look at each other and go like, we have to swim now. We have to swim fast. We have to swim hard. And I was the worst swimmer by far. I was certainly the most out of shape. And so my other 2 buddies are like making progress, and I am like fighting for every stroke nearly immediately. And I remember swimming, going like, I think I might die here. Like I am not convinced I'm going to make it back to shore, because I would look at my buddies who were ahead of me, who are like, one of them was like a pretty good swimmer, and like he's having a hard time and like struggling for breath. And I'm going like, if he's struggling, like I'm just dead. Like I am the one that gets eaten by the bear here. Yeah. And it was one of the first times probably in my life where I was in nature somewhere and I went like, that could have killed me. Like that was a decision I made that I could have just been swept up and died.
Yeah. So this is a place you went as a kid?
College was the first time.
Okay.
And then many times in the last 10 years, I guess.
No, yeah, that's nice. It's interesting how places do have a way of really sticking in your head. And so have you got a chance to explore Alaska with your fiance or
no? So I got here Friday night. She flew in Sunday night. And I mean, after the 5 days of driving, I was so zonked. Like Saturday, I had the whole day to myself, and I just sat on the couch and I was like, I want to watch like a movie or like turn on my PS5 and just relax. I like didn't even have the energy for that. I like kind of had YouTube on, but I just kind of like existed for a day, and that was what I needed. And then today we pretty much have the house like unpacked and set up. So then I'm sure tomorrow we're gonna wake up, go to the gym, and then be like, okay, so what can we do now? Like, what can we go see? Got a couple days before anything happens. Mountains, animals. I really want. Currently, the number one thing I want to experience is a whale blubber popsicle, which I've been told that the native folk here are still. I think they're still allowed. They have like access to killing whales. So I guess honestly, the more I talk about it, maybe I should feel more conflicted about.
So it's frozen?
Well, I think everything here is frozen, isn't it?
Hopefully, if you go to a restaurant like order a steak, it isn't frozen. I mean, I assume they have not frozen food in Alaska.
Yeah,
I've never been though.
I have had some non-frozen food. Yeah, I guess more than the whale blubber popsicle, I want to go to a place that is like as close to the old ways of Alaska as can be. That's my number one thing for traveling, I guess, is like, how do you get to where the locals are? Because when I was living in Los Angeles, after about the first month, we had done everything. Like we went to go see the Hollywood Stars, and we were like, this place sucks. Like it is so full of litter and garbage. Like I thought this was going to be like a nice upkept area. It was like this is gross. We've seen human feces today. And so I was like, okay, like where are the locals hanging out? Like how do we get through the tourism stuff? So that's like, I think the most important, to me at least, the most important travel skill to develop is like, how do you figure out what the people here actually do, not just what the people are selling you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am a planner when it comes to traveling, but at the same time, you do miss the kind of serendipity of experiencing something. Like I remember being in San Francisco and going to this just like hole in the wall Chinese restaurant that happened to be across from AT&T Stadium where I was going to a baseball game that day, and getting this like the seafood special, which I believe had scallops, prawns, shrimp, and there was some kind of fish in it too. And it was like literally stacked probably about 6 to 8 inches off of the plate. And it was just all like different kinds of seafood, and thinking like, wow. And I mean, seafood's like one of those things where, yeah, if you live in Wisconsin or Michigan, it's kind of a very mixed bag a lot of the time. But yeah, you go to California or, well, hopefully Alaska. I mean, I know like Washington State for sure. And you get it, it just tastes so good and so fresh. And yeah, I mean, it's experiences like that stick in your head. Yeah, like maybe 15 years later that I think they're hard to find if you're just going to, if you're just in a constant planning mode and not really looking around or exploring.
Yeah, I think like those authentic things where it's like, what is Alaska known for? What was it known for 100 years ago? Is that around at all still? Like, I mean, yeah, like it'd be cool to go see like sled dogs. I know that they're not like actively sled dogging in the way they were, but there's something of that like history and tradition that's like still built up into that. And then, oh shoot, what did you just say? The authentic, like the mega church thing for me what I was thinking about was how with mega churches, every minute is so programmed. There's no time left for like the exploratory part. And that's probably, that might be my largest like bone to pick is like, yeah, because you need both. Like if I'm gonna go travel somewhere, you do. You want to plan ahead, you want to know where it goes, but you want to leave like that chunk of time to explore and see what comes up.
Yeah. So yeah, I was thinking about it, and I think it is a challenge, which is if you have no one, I think, at least in the modern U.S., wants to say, "Oh, we're going to have a closed community," but it's if you have a really open community, how do you? I think it is something the TLCs encounter a bit. How do you keep one bad actor from just destroying the whole community? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have boundaries, right? Like there has to be, like, I just, in my own life, I feel like pure freedom has never led to anything good for myself. Like, I mean, like right now, one of my New Year's resolutions with like alcohol was like, I have 2 drinks a week. And now I like although I broke it last week, I had a little bit of whiskey before bed, not every night, but most of the nights on the road. But like, I look forward to those 2 drinks and then I just remain committed to those 2 drinks. And I mean, it's only a couple months in. I'll be curious to see how that feels in December and what I think about next year. But it also makes me go like, okay, I have 2 drinks this weekend. I want to make this cocktail that like is going to require a little bit more work, but like might be a little more experience based. Whereas like I'm probably not just gonna like crack a Miller Lite, even though it's nostalgic, because it's like, do I want to burn one of my 2 drinks on a Miller Lite? Okay, well, I could drink 2 of those immediately back to back, and there'd be no buzz. Not that I'm only drinking for a buzz, but like, is this really worth it?
Yeah, it just feels like drinking a slightly flat soda. I get that. So no, I don't know if you're a sports watcher, but if I watch football, oh man, those commercials for Coors where it's like, this is a beer for like waking up and being lazy on your couch. It's like, really? I mean, this is what you're marketing? Oh gosh. But, yeah. I mean, I guess you can drink it at any time. Well, if you're a man who's over 200 pounds, it probably won't do that much to you. But
well, I mean, I used to manage a brewery in Wisconsin, and like I'd get there at 10 a.m. and I'd pour my first beer at 10:05 a.m. and then I would drink until we closed at 10, so probably like 11:30 after hours. Like, I mean, so I've lived the like, and it was free beer too, because it was good craft beer on tap. There's all kinds of different beer, you know. So like, there was a period of life where that was fun, sort of. But like, I guess just I found imposing discipline to be really rewarding. And with my fiance and I did it with like finances this year too, where we were like, okay, we're going to try to get a budget together. We're going to use an app and try to look at every dollar and where it goes. And we like impose discipline. We're like, okay, this is how much you get to spend this month. This is how much I get to spend this month. This is how much we're spending on food. And then it became like, okay, let's look at our budget was like our map. Let's look at our map. Okay, this is where we can go and what we can do based on finances available to us. But then like knowing that we have money that's going to our savings every month was like, oh, that like actually like gets us more excited about like the prospect of having children soon, because like we're learning how to like have extra money, and we didn't know how to do it before. It's the same thing with our health. We're like, there's rules and we're imposing discipline, but that it has a reward. And if we lived out of pure freedom, then we wouldn't be able to like achieve any of those goals we were thinking about. And we've achieved some goals that we thought would take us 6 months. We were able to do in 3 months. And we were shocked by that.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to go all chat on you and try and do the Jordan Peterson voice, but it does make me think like, yeah, hedonism is hell, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't start as hell, but it turns into hell, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not just about the addiction aspect of it, though. It can be for sure. I mean, it's about the fact of not having to tie Donald Miller back and not having a story, right? I mean, it's where there's no vision, the people perish.
Yeah, you know, like we had gone together with some friends. This was within the last year, and one of our friends had brought another friend, and was somebody that I like had never met before, and the way that they introduced me was by telling a story about me. And the story they told about me was like, oh, Ethan, remember that time you got so drunk and puked on the wall and knocked a lamp down, and then you just like kind of like fell down and fell asleep, and we had to clean your puke off the wall. Like, that was such a wild night. Do you remember that? And I just went like, oh, this is the way I'm going to be remembered.
Yeah.
This is like your number one Ethan story as you introduced me to a person that's like important in your life that I've never met. And I went like, I don't want to be that guy anymore. I can't be remembered that way. Like, that's who I was. I'm not like ignoring that or like rejecting that, but like, I don't want to be him anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I have to change in order to figure out, can I be a different kind of human, so that when somebody like introduces me to their friend, they're like, I don't even care what it is. I just don't want to be the guy that got so drunk that he made his friends clean up after him, and like all of life is just a joke to him.
Yeah. So, yeah. No, I'm just kind of thinking about that, and it does make me wonder what stories people would tell about me. And you talk about decisions, and it's. I know you had been watching Chad and Neil's conversation, where Chad had said it makes him uncomfortable when people say that he's a good guy, and like he thinks of all his flaws and all of his shortcomings. And I mean, I understand what he's saying, and there's a big part of me that has that kind of instinct too. But at the same time, if someone says, "Oh, he's a great person," or maybe he's the kind of drunk who falls into lamp and throws up all over the place, they're telling you something true about the way that they perceive you. And I mean, like, I know, for example, I was at a grocery store once, and there was this person who they were at a self checkout, and they were standing there for not that long, maybe 5 seconds max, and they weren't going up to the self checkout. And I walked around her and I went to the self checkout, and I remember her like say it out loud too. She's like, "Oh man, what an asshole!" And like I think of that, and like my immediate reaction is, "Oh no, I'm not an asshole." I mean, I think my friends like me. I'm someone who contributes to society. I give to my church, but I mean, she's not wrong, right? I mean, she's not like making a value judgment in the sense of saying this person is a irredeemable human. She's saying, hey, this is how I experienced you in this moment. And I mean, I think, you talk about decisions. It's like every moment you have the decision to be an asshole, or you have a decision to be someone who lifts up the world in some way. And I mean,
he's a good neighbor.
To be a neighbor. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. So I guess that's how, Jesus would have said it too.
Yeah, and like, so, okay, I'm curious what you think of this, because I mean, I'm certainly still chewing on this stuff, but I was talking to a friend recently, and they were describing like a road altercation, and their perspective was that they were in the right, regardless of how the person on the road experienced them. It's kind of like a similar story to what you're saying. Where it's like you weren't trying to be an asshole to her, I'm sure. You were probably just like, oh, I don't know what she's doing. She's waiting in line. There's an open thing. Maybe she's, I don't know what she's doing. I'm just going to go take the open one. It was kind of like that kind of a story. And I said to my friend, I was like, well, based on what you just told me, like, you cut somebody off. And he goes, well, you weren't there. You don't understand. And I'm going like, well, I don't think I need to be there. Like, you were there and you just told me about what happened. He goes, no, but like he was kind of arguing like my subjective experience is primary. That's fundamental. And your subjective experience of hearing the story doesn't have an impact on what happened on the road. And I'm going like, but something happened on the road. There is some kind of objective, and maybe I'm using the wrong fancy words here, but like there's some kind of objective reality that occurred. Something occurred on the road where one car moved in front of the other car. And if you cut somebody off, then you cut somebody off. Like, it doesn't matter the reasoning you had. Someone was cut off. Like, it's not impossible to live in a way where we just don't cut people off on the road. But that requires us to like be more patient and be like, okay, I'm going to pump my brakes, even though I could drive faster and like pull up in front of this car. And there is enough room for me to do that. But then it's like, do I want to be the kind of person who's perceived as an asshole, even though like I'm in control of my car? I can navigate my car into this space. There will be no accident that occurs. I guarantee that. But why can't I just like pump my brakes a little bit and like slide in behind the car? And then there's not even an opportunity for the perception of asshole to occur. Like, I just don't think that's that hard, but I don't know if I'm being...
Well, I mean, it's easy to talk about, right? I mean, like you talk about, like, for example, Arthur Brooks and how a lot of what he has to say, especially in a short form, I mean, it comes off as cliche, but at the same time, I mean, there's a reason why people buy his books and why people are watching his videos, which is that, I mean, you need the constant reminders of it. I mean, it's like, I don't know, like why do we, if you're a Christian, why do you go take communion and here, I mean, remember the body and blood of Christ, right? I mean, you haven't forgot it, but I mean, there's something where you feel like you need to be constantly remembered, reminded the to be the neighbor, right? To not be the person who sees the guy on the side of the road and is like, yeah, screw that guy. I mean, uh,
Yeah. As I was driving from Seattle to Anchorage, one of the things I just kept thinking about was, I mean, every day the mountains got more breathtaking, more intense, more serious. And I just kept thinking about like, I can tell you a story of the mountains. I can show you a picture of the mountains that I took, but like all of that pales in all of that pales in comparison. That's the poetic language. all of that
he's
pales
a
in
writer,
comparison.
people.
Yeah, but right, not a
He's
not a
got the
speaker.
words.
To like experiencing the mountain, and like, and you've had that experience like of the sequoias or of that bicycle ride or of your Scrabble tournaments. Like there is nothing that you can't capture the experience. I mean, you can capture it, and then you can like transcribe it and share it, but like. I don't want people to hear me talking about the mountains and be like, wow, that was such a beautiful poem. Like that's not like, if that's all someone gets from my poem, I'm like, I failed. And I don't want someone to like look at the Polaroid I took of a mountain and go like, wow, let me sit and stare at this Polaroid. It's like, no, like I want you to go experience your own mountains, even if it's just like the highest point in your state. Because like the mountains, that thing that is like one copy from the eternal, like that is the thing that will change you. Like my words and my pictures will only take you so far. At a certain point, like you have to go and do the thing, right? And it's like, I don't know. Like, yeah, again, you're right. Like I can talk about, oh, why don't you just press the brakes down a little bit and ease into the lane and be the kind of person that doesn't have the perception of asshole on them. Like until you do that, until you become that kind of person, which I guess I'm not saying I've arrived there, but I am trying to be that person in my real life. And there's always a degree of inauthenticity when you also are the kind of person that comes online to talk about how authentic a person you are. But I don't know any other way to do it. So like, until you just go do it yourself, I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing I can tell you. Or if you were rubbing shoulders with people and they go like, this person behaves differently, this person speaks differently, I wonder what kind of person this is. And then you go, like, oh, well, I follow Jesus. Like that's the only reason I am the way I am. That's the only reason I'm capable of anything is because I follow Jesus, and I am trying to like step into those footprints as I drive my car, as I'm in a checkout line, as I put food in my mouth, as I turn a screen on. Like it's a very literal, practical thing. And there are footprints that I try and like land in.
You know, it's good. Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite jokes about TLC is guy on the internet's favorite topic is complaining about being on the internet. But yeah, no, and you know, hopefully, I don't know. We'll see where this thing takes me, but yeah, hopefully it'll spur some fruit, if you will. I know despite my hesitations, I am going to go to Midwest Story this year, and yeah, I know. Yeah, there's a few other people that I've met in the corner from time to time, and I mean, there's something to be said about the idea of community, where, like, I know I could actually be, I know I come off very soft, but I could be a real jerk sometimes online. I mean, I remember like what the uncensored Reddit and 4chan were like, and I don't know, I developed some of those kinds of like bad habits, if you will, but yeah, at the same time though, I remember seeing someone make a comment I didn't really like or agree with, and kind of wanted to go after them, but but I pumped the brakes. It's like, no, what? This is someone who I know other people who know them, even though we don't really know each other that well. And I probably am going to have a conversation with them at some point. So, I mean, you ask what it means to be like Christ, and being in community and experiencing both the good and the bad of that is maybe the most Christian thing that you can do, right? So it's, I mean, taking part of the body, right?
Yeah.
Which I know I talk a good game, but I can be pretty lousy at it myself.
Well, me too.
But yeah. So
Okay, do you have an alt account?
an alternate account, I guess is what I mean. I assume this isn't like some social media I haven't heard of.
No, I just mean like I know you on YouTube as From Whom All Blessings Flow.
Oh,
But
well,
do you have another account that you'll jump on that nobody knows
I don't
it's
do
you,
that.
that's not attached to?
Well, I mean, I do have. I mean, From Whom All Blessings Flow is a relatively new account, and I mean, I do have my Sam Ewing Gmail account, but that's yeah. I mean, that's not a yeah. That's just me. It's There's not even a pseudonym, so yeah. No, I don't play list games. Yeah. Yeah.
I was trying to break some news here. You've got a double pseudonymous account.
God. You've maybe seen more of me than you would like to. No, not really. If anyone got almost 2 hours into that video, this video, that'll be a good Easter egg for them. We'll know if Chad watches the whole thing or not. He'll definitely react to that.
Yeah, we'll hear from Chad.
I doubt he will, but yeah, that's fine. So, but yeah, no, thanks for this. This was a lot of fun, and yeah, hopefully it doesn't feel too unstructured and random.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, just I guess I kind of had a plan in my head, and I mean, I don't know. I'm not. I'll be honest. Like, I watched some live streams of the TLC, and I see just people like talking for hours, and there's not a clear, like, defined topic, and sometimes it does drive me a little bit insane. Maybe I do have a little bit of type A in me that. Yeah, but I know that's part of the play and part of the fun of community too, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, my plan was just like slowly become your friend. That was my main like intention, and I feel like I'm on my way. And like, okay, from first interaction, I was like, okay, you're like a serious Scrabble tournament player, and then it was the bicycling thing. I was like, huh. And then this time we chatted, I'm like, okay, you worked in 2 national parks, like. I didn't know we had this like hiking nature overlap. Like that's something that I like dearly, dearly love. And so sometimes it takes a while to just get to, parts of a human that you probably aren't going to mention. I don't know, maybe you do, staying in a national park and the comments you leave around the internet. So the only way I would learn that would be.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I'll get to meet you face to face at Midwestern. So it's like, I'll see you and be like, oh, I know that pseudonym and the real name there. And I'll be able to be like, hey, Sam Ewing. And you'll be like, oh, Nathan Caughey. And like, wait to like high five and hang out. And like, that is like exciting to me, not just for you, but like many other people that I've met. And it's like, oh, this like real flesh and blood place is now like alive with characters I have some degree of relationship with. And then there's like a potential that we walk away from Midwestern going like, that's my friend. Like, or we go like, I did not jive with that guy in person the way I thought I would. Like I thought we would be pals, and nah.
Yeah. So, yeah. No. Yeah. No, I'm just thinking about that, and I mean, maybe I'll end with this. I've kind of maybe joked a little bit like. I mean, PVK's idea of having apparently is an endless, like 24-hour YouTube stream. It's like when he talks about being in heaven. It's about having all the time to have conversations with people he doesn't have time for. And I hear that as like, really? That's your idea of heaven? I don't know. I might prefer definitely somewhere, I don't know, a little bit more remote, a little more quiet. Maybe there's art there, but it'd be nice if there was like art and like nature and a synthesis. But I don't know. You talk about, yeah, what maybe like the first day of eternity would be like. I mean, I don't know. I guess, yeah, being together with all the people you're separated from, whether it's digitally or maybe people who have passed, or maybe people who in some ways have physical limitation and who you can't communicate to the way you would like to. I don't know, being in unity with them, that might be a pretty good start for eternity.
Yeah, I hope it's something like waking up on the shores of Rock Island and there's a campfire roaring and my closest friends and family are there. I look off in the distance and there's some TLC folks over there, some TLC folks over there, and there's just these campfires everywhere. And I go like, oh man, like it's going to take me a long time to talk to everybody. And I might never leave this fire with my grandfather, who I barely know. Like I might be here for a long time. And then like the radiance and presence of God, like, and that just radiates everywhere and envelops everything.
Yeah, that is something. So yeah, we're almost at 2 hours. So I am gonna stop the stream, but stay on for a moment though, because I want to talk to you about some things that I don't think people would be interested in on the stream. So no, not anything. Well,